So we've removed items from the DOM. We have not removed them from the array. Remove flick should probably do both jobs. So first, we'll remove from the DOM. Then we'll remove from the array. How do we do that? Well, shucks. We need to find which thing in the array is the flick we're looking for, right? So we can loop through that array and look for the ID. We have the item, so we could get the ID from the item, couldn't we? Because it's on the data set. So we could say, don't do this, but we could say something like const ID equals item.dataset.id. Then we could loop through the array until we found one with that ID. We could do that. Maybe that's how we should do it. I don't know. There's another thing we could do. We learned about bind the other day, and we used it very briefly to demonstrate that you can change the value of this inside any function. That was close. But you can also use it to pass arguments to a function, right? If you want an event handler, for example, to receive arguments in addition to the event, which it will always receive, you can do that using bind. So here's where we set remove flick as the event handler. If we said bind this, what would that do? Well, what's this right now inside remove flick? It's the event target, right? It's not the object. It's not app. This would make it app. So this would be the right thing if we did that. But we also want to pass in another argument to it, maybe. So if we put anything after this, then whatever we put there will be passed as an argument to the method. So we have the flick that we want to remove from the array right here. It's passed in as an argument to a render list item. So we could pass it in like that. And now, remove flick would get the flick as an argument. Yeah.
So is it this and the flick referring to the same thing?
No. This is referring to app, this entire object. Yeah, so on line 35, what this is set to is, well, just right, we used it right here, right? This.remove flick. So that's not flick.remove flick. Flick is just this object that has a name and an ID. It's this. That's what flick is. Whereas this is set to this whole dang object. The one with all the methods. The one with all the methods is not the title of an episode of Friends. This remove flick, bind. So we bind it to this, and we pass in flick. And I think I mentioned casually that the event, which we know is always going to get passed in, whether we ask for it or not, will be the last argument to your event handler. So flick will actually come first here. So what's the point of doing this? Partially to demonstrate that you can, and partially now we just need to look through the array for that exact flick. So we could do something like this. You know how to use index of with an array? So if we have an array, fruits, veggies, array.index of veggies, 1. Right, index of fruits, 0. Looks through the array and tells you which index points to the item you're looking for. So we want to look through the array and find flick. Our array is this.flicks, right? This array right here. The one that we pushed onto, and then we changed it from pushed on shift. So this.flicks.index of flick. We're looking for that particular one. Yeah.
So when we do ev.flicks, what would we get?
EV is just an event object. It won't have, you'll get undefined. So EV has a target, it has prevent default, it has stuff like that. So ev.flicks isn't a thing.
So then what's the point of ev in this particular method?
What's the point of which?
ev in this particular method. So say ev points to the button, right?
ev.target points to the button. Yeah. We couldn't get the target if we didn't have the event. So that's why we need EV. So that we can find the button. All right, so this.flicks.index of the flick we're looking for should give us the right index. So I will save that to const I. Then how do you remove something from the middle of an array? Array splice. Let's read how that works. Array prototype splice. Changes the contents of an array by removing existing elements or adding new elements. So start, the index at which to start changing the array. So that sounds like that should be I. So our array again is this.flicks. .splice I, the index we want to start at. Second argument, which is optional, delete count, an integer indicating the number of old array elements to remove. I think we want to remove 1. We want to remove 1 element starting there. Next, elements to add to the array. We don't want to add any new ones, so I think we just stop there. Starting from this index, the one where we find our flick, remove 1 element. Let's check it out. Step up, G.I. Joe. So app.flicks. There's our array with 2 things in it. Let's delete the second one. Check it again. Now there's only 1 thing, and it is the one that we didn't delete. We did it. Hooray. And just a 2-liner. We did change one other thing. We passed the flick in here. We wouldn't have had to. We could have just gotten the ID off of the LI and gone looking for that ID. Would have been a little more complicated, though. We couldn't have just used index of. Would have had to use filter or something. So, remove flicks from the array. Questions? Yeah. Say again? Let's see what you mean. Show me where you see null. Cannot read property add event listener of null. So what's null is the thing you're calling add event listener on, which means the query selector. Where's that? So this query selector is returning null. So it's not finding anything with both the class button2 and the class button. So let's see. Where's the button? So it doesn't have both classes, does it? It only has the class button2. So you need to just say button2 there. So this is a good thing to demonstrate. This error message. Here's the error message. Cannot read property add event listener of null. So what does that mean? We're trying to add an event listener to null on line 36. So what that means is that the line before did not give us what we expect. There's something wrong with our query selector. So that's how you can diagnose an issue like this. You're trying to add event listener to null, which means this is null and we didn't think it was. So in this case, there's something wrong with something terribly wrong with my selector. Fix the selector. Error goes away.